Hello, everyone. Good to see all of you again after a long gap. We are back with yet another episode on anthropology. And specifically speaking, we will discuss biological anthropology in some detail. But keep in mind, our anthropology optional is not just about biology per se, but it is about biological anthropology, where we emphasize more on the applications of these biological aspects to humans, to humanity, right? That's what anthropology is. It's a discipline of infinite curiosity about humans. So that's an important sort of a distinction to keep in mind. So a biology answer isn't necessarily a biological anthropology answer. And one more thing, most of the students probably think that biology portion is going to be taxing, it's going to be slightly challenging, but trust me, that is not the case at all. Biology is in fact quite easy, and in fact a lot of fun as well. And you yourself will realize this thing after watching these videos on the playlist. So in this playlist, we will start from the very basics and try to sort of help you build some interest and more importantly, help you build a strong foundation when it comes to biological anthropology. So without any further delay, let's get started.
Okay, next topic, just as a continuation, lethal genes, right? So what is a lethal gene? Those genes, you know what is lethal, right? What is lethal? Harmful, fatal, whatever you want to call it, right? Which kill its possessor is called lethal genes. So you remember, within your DNA molecules, you have certain segments that are your genes, right? You have your chromosome, you have your cell, you have your nucleus, you have your chromosome. Inside that, it is bound with your DNA molecule, long molecule, right? And certain segments of this thing are going to be your genes. Now, there are certain genes that are just not good for you. Okay, they can be lethal. If it is lethal, that means whoever is the possessor, those people will, the possessors will die. Two types, especially. Okay, you can have dominant lethal. Okay, and you can have recessive lethal. What will be your dominant lethal and what will be your recessive lethal? I don't think I have to explain this. What could it be? So if it is dominant, so what are your combinations again? You can have a capital D, you can have a capital D, lowercase d, or you could have a lowercase d, lowercase d. So a dominant, if it is this or this, then it will kill the person. Here, it will be this combination. You have to get one from your mother, you have to get one from your father, then they come together, then it will show. Okay, so this means it will be that disorder or disease that can kill you. Just like dominant and recessive, right? In dominant condition, so even if this one is a recessive one, it does not necessarily matter. It will have a disorder or a disease that can kill you. Okay, any questions so far?
No. So it depends on which type of lethal is it, right? The deceased one, or does it happen in both the cases?
No, your question. Just repeat the question. Like, what do you mean?
So when you say the dominant lethal and the recessive lethal, in this case, is it always the dominant one which carries forward the particular gene to kill the processor, or how does it? I can't follow it actually.
No, there are certain disorders, okay, which are lethal in dominant condition. There are certain disorders that are lethal in recessive condition. So if it is in dominant condition disorders, then it will be these combinations that will kill it. If it is recessive, then it will possibly in this particular combinations.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Okay, yeah. So let's look at dominant. So within dominant, you can have sublethal and you can have semi-lethal. So sub and semi, these are basically a time period based. And this, okay, so the threshold point here is before or after attainment of Do you guys know this?
No, sir.
Okay. So sub means before and semi means after. Okay, so before attainment of your reproductive age, and this is after. So within dominant also, you have two different types. Some that immediately after the birth, okay, as they're infants, or before any time period before they, hit their reproductive age, they will die. Okay, now why reproductive age matters? Reproductive age matters because will they be passing this on or no? Right? If the reproduction part does not matter, then what exactly happens? So let me give you an example. So in this particular case, there is no attainment of reproductive age, meaning the sublethal ends in this particular generation, or at least with this particular person who dies. In semi-lethal, it is post reproductive age, meaning this could be passed on to the next generation because meiosis happens, sperm goes, egg comes, right? And then they form that. So in this one, an example here is a disorder called epiloia. Something to do with skin disorder, okay? Multiple skin tumors. Generally, death happens within the first 3 years, or you can just put it as infancy. So epiloia, generally in infancy. Okay. And after, again, explain this. Okay. Again, here you'll have another example, which is Huntington's disorder. In anthropology, you do not need to know which disorder, or sorry, you need to know which disorder, but you don't really need to write what exactly is that disorder. Okay, because that again, you're going into symptoms and whatnot. Now, those things are not required from anthropology's perspective. What is more required is the logic behind these. Okay, however, this is a central nervous system disorder. Okay, there is a slow degeneration of it over a period of time. Generally happens towards after middle age. Okay. Similarly, we have recessive lethal. So in this, we have sublethal again and semi-lethal. So I'm not explaining these again. Sub means what and semi means what?
Sub means before attaining the reproduction gender. Semi is after.
Okay. So an example here is sickle cell anemia. And this one is hemophilia. Sickle cell anemia is that your red blood cells, right? There is some problems with it. It does not carry enough oxygen properly. And that is because the structure changes from a circular position. It changes to a crescent shaped. Okay. What is more important is ability to structure your content well. You can stick to the same structure. In 1 or 2 lines, if you can explain what is sublethal and what for in this particular structure, okay, what are you going to explain? You have to explain what is recessive lethal, when does it kick in, what is sublethal, explain with reference to which time period, right? Okay, and then you explain what is semi-lethal. Okay, and then hemophilia is generally a disorder where your blood does not clot. There is also something called conditional lethal. Okay, in conditional lethal, so Okay. Have you done protein synthesis and all in this class? Have you covered those? Do you guys know what an amino acid is?
No, sir, we haven't done it.
Okay. So then I'll just explain in short. A gene which is lethal in one environmental condition may not be so in another environmental condition. So really the conditionality here is about that environment. There are many simple examples. For instance, if you take, there's phenylketonuria. Phenylketonuria. And this is about, so this, if you have a normal diet, you will have a person who has this particular disorder, okay, phenylketonuria, he will not be able to digest a particular amino acid called phenylalanine. However, if you give that person a diet which is free of phenylalanine, then he has no such disorder. It is only when you're exposed to that particular amino acid. So the conditionality is the presence or absence of that amino acid in your diet. Okay. So what is the conditionality? Presence of a particular amino acid. Okay, so presence would be lethal, absence equals not lethal, and hence that conditional. So if a person is in the presence of such a this one in their diet, so meaning you could alter a person's diet and ensure that that person is not facing this condition anymore. So this has nothing to do with dominant or recessive, right? What it means is that there are certain things that could be lethal, okay, but there is something that you could do to prevent it. Okay, so prevention can be done. It's a very straightforward question, okay? But the questions can come in different forms and you'll have to alter your content. I think the question came in 2018. I'll just try to pick out the question. Okay, the question was categorize genes that influence human survival. So this is about, so the question was in 2018, so the content remains the same, but you'll have to reframe your entire answer to suit the needs of this particular way of asking. Revati, once you're done with your the rest of the fossils, because I think Neanderthals and Cro-Magnon and all that has not been done, after that you can take a crack at this. But generally lethal genes is this. Okay, you know what lethal genes are, right? It is dominant and lethal, dominant lethal, recessive lethal. Under that you have 2 for dominant, under that you have 2 for recessive also. After that you also have another perspective. Lethal or not lethal really depends on which condition or environmental condition the person is exposed to. Okay, in case now you want to make this answer even longer, generally you will not have a 15 marker in this, but let's say you want to, you can even think about why lethal genes are prevalent in populations.
Okay.
What could be the logic here? Think about this. Generally, what is the idea? Why should they not be there? Why should be there? Why should they be there? Don't use any new content. Just think about like all the basic ideas that we've thought about. The entire anthro that we are going to cover is going to come out only from those basic keywords that I've done and based on the simple philosophies.
It's because
Again,
of
go back.
variation and mutations that happen.
Okay, so mutation. So you are saying that so variations. Okay, let's think about this. You're saying variations are there.
Yes.
Okay, let's say variations. Now, what about variations? How do you connect this? Again, don't just throw. Just connect the whole story. You derive this
Okay.
answer yourself. You have variations.
Yeah. So
Now what?
because of variations, the mutations that happen over
Mhm.
generations.
Mm-hmm. See, mutations
And
happen in a person. Okay, it is not over.
yeah, but some mutations are carry forwarded as well. I mean, you during mutation you lose certain kind of allele type and all, right? I mean, how do I put it?
So mutation causes variations, right? Then.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Now after
And
variations,
after variations, because of natural selections
okay, good.
during
Okay.
reproduction.
Okay, natural selection. So nature should select something, right? Nature
Yes.
should select. Okay. Now this variation is if you have lethal genes or bad genes or fatal genes or harmful genes or unfit genes, should they be selected by nature? Or should they be removed by nature?
In some cases, ideally they should be removed by nature, but then in some cases it is forwarded to the next generations as well, right?
It could
Like
be.
for example,
Mhm.
yeah. For example, in directional extremes, or it could be even in disruptive selections. There are chances that it could be carry forward to the next generations, right?
Okay. So generally, it should mean that nature should select fit genes, not unfit genes. Okay, so this should be the logic. Okay, so unfit genes, so fit genes carry forward. Okay, and unfit genes means remove. So this should be the logic. Okay.
Yeah.
However, what is happening is we have unfit genes that are passed on from generation 1 to generation 2 to generation n. So there is a particular reason why they are being selected. So to explain this, there are two kinds of ideas that are given. First one is medical advancements. So regardless of who the person is right now, whatever kind of disorders the person has, medical advancement and social cultural practices. Wait. If you have some minor disorders, okay, doctors can take care of you. Okay, doctors can take care of you. You can be given medicines. You can, there could be some cure, maybe some treatment where the magnitude of the problem can be reduced to a large extent. So let's say, so this is something that can be passed on to the next generation by that particular person, then it will still remain in the population for long because that person is not removed from the population due to medical advancements, right? It could also be because of social cultural practices. Social cultural practices, in, we just looked at that example of phenylalanine, right? Phenylketonuria, you could ensure that the person with phenylketonuria will have no problem if that person is not exposed to phenylalanine amino acid at all. So if that person is not exposed to that particular amino acid, what would happen? No problem, can live a healthy life. So by altering the environmental condition through sociocultural practices or through medical advancements, the unfit genes are not removed from the population. They're allowed to still float around in the human population. Okay, so this is more in terms of human intervention. We have ensured that these are still prevalent. Okay, similarly, there's another one which you brought up, which was the fact that there is disruptive selection, right? So again, if we go back to things like sickle cell anemia, there's a particular kind of a mutation, a proline, valine, there are some amino acids that get interchanged and substituted. I'll make you draw all of these things later. But the idea here is that what do we have here? We have this, and we have this, or we have this. In sickle cell anemia, in areas that this disorder is prevalent, okay, you will see a lot of this being selected. Sickle cell anemia is recessive, meaning this particular person will have sickle cell anemia. But because of certain condition, this guy will also not make it when there is in a particular environmental condition. So here there is a lot more selection. Nature selects this. And hence what happens? Two of these guys, let's say, they keep getting married. 25% of them will have it, right? So let's say capital T, lowercase t, capital D, lowercase t. Always give your male and female. You can give it in any direction, but it's better to stick with one. So what did I say? 25% affected. Okay, but the nature keeps selecting for this disruptive selection, right? So every generation you will see a lot of these disorders. So this is a particular, because of heterozygosity selection in a particular place because of a certain long story, okay? But I'll explain all of that to you. So superiority of your heterozygotes. Okay, superiority of heterozygotes, as in, what do I mean by that? Nature selects for this particular combination again and again for certain reasons. But with this, you also have some defective offspring, as in offspring with disorders. So this is never getting removed from the population. Similarly here, what was happening, even if you have a particular disorder, if you have such alleles, it did not matter. Okay, through some form of medical intervention or through social cultural practices, we can ensure that the child is alive. Okay, the child can come to full, okay, reproductive age, and then even reproduce and then have almost a normal life. However, if it was only with the action of natural selection and no medical advancements and no social cultural practices, possibly the percentage of people with such disorders will be a lot less. Sickle cell anemia, thalassemia, many of them have this. Okay, here you can just talk about phenylketonuria. This, by the way, is a Dobzhansky. No, this is a Muller. Dobzhansky. The idea is more important. I hope you got the idea. Essentially, again, we came from natural selection. Then we went into how do you apply that here? The same genes. You have certain segments that make up your genes. The genes could have some problems. Now, again, you want to categorize those genes that could have issues. And this categorization could be, okay, in terms of dominant and recessive. And with that, you can have sub and semi. You can even have it as sub and semi. Inside that, you'll have dominant and recessive. And under semi also, you'll have dominant and recessive. It is up to you on how you want to organize it. And a lot of that organization really depends on how the question is asked. You write for a question that is, the demand is different. Okay, but you just write the same content. You will get very few marks. Okay, you'll have to change it quite a bit, but that comes with lots and lots of practice. Okay, which you will get and you will get better. Okay, so dominant, sublethal. Okay, this, what is it? It should give you that clarity. When I see that answer should give you clarity. Similarly, semi-lethal. Okay, what is a time period? What is the term, reference? Okay, so it will be before or after your reproductive age or attainment of your reproductive age. Then you move on to recessive. Explain the same thing. What is recessive? Okay, Did somebody message me just now? No, right? Neither of you, right?
Not me.
Okay.
No, sir.
Okay. Oh God, keep getting messages. Okay, and then you can even talk about conditional lethal. Now, the point is not to insert too many things. Okay, but I will always keep trying to interconnect. The lesser you put in your answer, the better it is for you. Okay, leave a lot of space, present it better. And because the question, what is it asking? Just answer that and answer it well. Okay, however, if it's like a 15 marker or something like that, you could add some analytical points like what I have discussed here. But again, go back to the same, our thought process. It might seem a little weird to you right now, but as you keep applying it to every single concept again and again and again, you'll get the hang of it. You'll get the hang of it as long as you're in touch with it now. If you leave a break, then again, getting back to that rhythm might be a little difficult, but it's okay if you come back. Okay. So this is your lethal genes. Any questions on this so far?
Hope you guys are finding a biological anthropology playlist useful for your preparation. Hope this video helped reinforce your basics and also helped you connect a little better with the applications. If there's any other aspect of anthropology that you would like to know more about, do let us know in the comment section and we will try to make videos on those as well. Thank you for watching and we will see you in the next video.